champion boxing in sports. In boxing, you find a way to lose, or you find a way to win. And Triple G is getting ready to return to the ring, and after a couple of years off, and he's going up against Ryota Murata. Now the thing about this, right? Triple G, the more I'm kind of thinking about him and how he's performed over the last decade and what he's managed to accomplish, but also you got to take a look at what he wasn't able to accomplish. Whether that was his fault, other fighters' fault, it's kind of reminding me a little bit of what Jermall Charlo is kind of going through right now. Triple G has had a lot of fights, and he's fought guys who were pretty high in the rankings, but some could say he's almost fought some nobodies. Now, when you think about Canelo's the name that really stands out. You think about Derevinchenko. Some would say Triple G lost that fight, but that's after he parted ways with Abel Sanchez. But Jermall Charlo is kind of going down the similar path where all the talent in the world, but what names are really on the resumes? And that's the same thing with Triple G. I think if Jermall doesn't sort things out, because his career, he's probably in the middle of his career. Triple G's at the tail end. And Jermall is going to be like Triple G, where he's going to be defined by the fights that never happened. So although Triple G is getting ready to fight Ryota Murata, and then after that, he's guaranteed to fight, if he wins, he's guaranteed to fight with Canelo. It'll be the third fight. I personally think Triple G won the first two. If you disagree, leave it in the comments, man. Let's have a chat about it. But I think Triple G won those two fights. But on paper, that fight with Murata is a solid fight. Just like for Jermall Charlo, his upcoming fight, you could say it should be a pretty good fight on paper, but these aren't the names that these guys really need to define their legacy. And for Jermall Charlo, there's still hope. There's still a chance for him to fight a Caleb Plant, for him to fight a Benavidez, for him to fight a Canelo. It wouldn't hurt for him to fight a Triple G to get that name on his resume. And really anybody from 160, 168, maybe even 154. I know it's hard for him to get down, but he can bubble up to 168 and maybe get to 175. Jermall can. Talk about defining your legacy and being known for the fights that he made, opposed to just kind of taking, and I'm not saying any fight is an easy fight, but I think you'll understand when I say taking an easy route. Now for Triple G, it's not that he was trying to take an easy route. Triple G wanted to fight those big names. He just never had the opportunities. And that's what's sad, because Triple G was just a monster. He was a Kazakhstani monster. You got to understand, Triple G in 2003, he's been fighting for a while, was a world amateur champion and silver medalist at the 2004 Olympics before a very lengthy run as a WBA middleweight titleist. And he's added a couple of belts along the way to WBC and the IBF. And you look at who he's fighting in Murata, he was a gold medalist for Japan in the 2012 games, but as a pro, he had one loss and came back and he avenged that loss. But when you really think about Murata, I mean, it's just, how much credit does Triple G get for clipping this guy? And the thing is, I don't think Triple G, I think we need to watch and see how he performs. Triple G, first, Murata's 36 years old now. Triple G is 40. He has not been active. And going into a fight, the Japanese are tough. And going into a fight, and I still think he needs Abel Sanchez. Him leaving Abel Sanchez hurt him. He's not the same fighter. And I think you're going to have a tough time with the Japanese fighter. Now, if he loses, all those plans for a third fight with Canelo is gone. it's not even it's a mute point then. But for anything good to happen for Golovkin for what little remains in his career, he's gonna have to get some. He is gonna have to get back to me with Abel Sanchez and become that monster he was. But you know, people get old overnight. And he's 40 now, and there's only one Bernard Hopkins. There's only one George Foreman, and Triple G. I just don't think. I don't think he's made out of that same cloth because you need to have the right people in your camp, and I don't think he has the right people in his camp. So Triple G's kind of going on to try to get this chapter 3 with Canelo, but it's really disturbing because Canelo has a tough fight with Bivol. So there's no guarantee Canelo's going to win that fight because that's a fight that he can definitely lose. But when you think about Jermall Charlo, there are fights that he can definitely lose right now if he were to challenge himself. But getting into the Hall of Fame and being remembered for those fights and those big names, I think that's something that these guys should be considering because Jermall Charlo is only a few years away from being in a similar position. Because Triple G, he never had the chance to stay at middleweight and fight the Felix Sturm, Sergio Martinez, Miguel Cottos. Those guys made other fights. You know, they didn't want to fight him. And I'm not saying they're scared. They were scared because I seriously doubt that. But they knew that was a tough fight. So they went another route to where they could still probably make the same money or more money fighting a lesser risk. So Triple G is kind of out in the wind. And his real big break came with, I would say, Canelo. But he was beating guys. He was shutting guys down. I don't know. I'm sure you guys remember when he fought Stevenson, man. Curtis Stevenson. I mean, Stevenson came in there. He had him and his friends and something on the sidewalk like Triple G was dead and all this crap. Talked a good game. He got hit with that left hook. I think it was a left hook or a right hand. But anyway, when he came up on the canvas, that expression on his face, like what hit me? Nevertheless, Curtis Stevenson isn't really the type of name that someone's going to remember Triple G for. So right now, Triple G is just going to be defined by the fights that haven't happened. And Jermall Charlo needs to pay attention. And look at what his brother's doing. His brother is out there unifying. Jermall needs to do the same thing. Unless he's afraid he's going to lose his belt. You know, fight Andre. Fight those guys, man, ranked in the top 10. Fight the champions. Try to unify. I know he's called out Canelo. I know he's called out Triple G. But, Benavidez. But if you want those fights, those fights can happen. But I understand everybody wants to get paid. But, you know, it's a saying that I've come up with here recently is you got to be pretty boy. Not everybody can be Money Mayweather. Money Mayweather went through the pretty boy phase. These guys should have been gone through the pretty boy phase. Everybody just wants to be Money Mayweather. You got to go out there. Mayweather fought everybody. Everybody. The only one person he didn't fight, and I'm glad he did, was Margarito, because Margarito would have cheated. And who knows how that fight would have been. But I think Floyd would have still been able to avoid him without boxing. It wouldn't have mattered. But Margarito was cheating. Margarito messed up Kermit Central. He cheated. He just got caught with Mosley. Banged Miguel Cotto's face all up. Horrible. But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm getting at, talking about the money, these guys, I don't know if legacy is that important to him, man. But Jermall needs to pay attention, and you know, I'm not sure. You never know what these guys watch, man. I'm not a Twitter guy and all that, but if he happens to see this video, Jermall, don't be defined by fights you didn't have. Try to be defined as a champion, especially when you go into retirement, as all the great fights you made. Like, we want to talk about that. We want to still come back and pull up fights. I pull up all of Mayweather's fights and watch them. I watch all kind of Cotto fights. I watch all kind of Zab Judah fights. You know, Chris Bird. I watch all of those fights, man. The Arturo Gotti's, like, it just doesn't get old. It's just nonstop. You know, De La Hoya, Trinidad. You know, he just needs. This should be more important to fighters, in my opinion. It really should. But I don't know, man. Triple G, man, and he was like the boogeyman, and the knockouts and knockout streak, and that's what scared people. And you can understand. I mean, the man he was going on like, I think he was in the teens, and just, more than 8 years of just getting busy, beating people, annihilating people in the ring. And it is what it is. But we'll see what happens, man. Going into the fight for Triple G, going into the fight for Charlo, I hope they both win, but I hope Charlo wakes up and tries to make those big fights with Andre, with Benavidez, Caleb Plant, with all these guys, the big names. I know he can't squeeze down, but some of those other guys too, they got to be defined by the fights they made too. So some of those guys can come up to take a challenge as well, man. And we'll see. But Father Time is slipping away for Triple G, but he has a chance to, get a win against Canelo, and the fate's in his hands. And for Jermall Charlo, I think he has more opportunities than Triple G has remaining, but he's got to start acting now, because these guys, when you're fighting once a year, twice a year, that's just not enough. Canelo's fighting 4 times a year. It's just impressive. He's still hungry. These guys gotta want it, man. But that being said, that's my 2 cents. I think Jermall Charlo, all that talent, all of that talent, and he's getting us into a situation where he's just gonna be defined by the fights he didn't have, and he can do something about that. Now you look at a guy like Andre. That's an even worse case, but it's not his fault. Nobody wants to fight him. He almost had to say he'll fight for free and give up his whole purse to get a fight, and that's just, he shouldn't have to do that. But all these guys need to get out there, man, and this is for boxers as a whole, not to be defined by the fights you didn't have, but to be defined by the fights you made. And I think Charlo needs to really take a look at Golovkin, because there was a lot of fights that he just didn't get. The only fight that's really defining him and making him a noteworthy opponent for anyone is the Canelo fight. And him going in, even if Jermall Charlo was to fight him right now, that's kind of like somebody fighting Amir Khan right now, like somebody fighting Adrian Broner right now, kind of like somebody fighting Keith Thurman right now. It's a name, but it's not a guy who was in that stretch when he was just clipping everybody. So Jermall needs to act now and get in there with the guys who are in their prime, who are knocking people out, and get in there and get some wins. If not, he's going to be in the same position as Triple G. Great fighter, but the unknown, that question mark will always kind of linger over his head. Could he have done more? And did the fans deserve more? And at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to these guys and their teams. Who am I? I'm just a guy who likes boxing, who loves boxing, likes to talk about it. That being said, thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. More videos to come. You guys take care, keep safe, and as always, shout out to all the veterans. And you know what? I'm in the break.